Picture this. You've served in every major war for decades. Your taxes fund the government. Your community follows all the laws. But you can't vote, can't appeal unfair treatment, and face economic discrimination. When you finally ask for equal rights, the response is, "You're not really one of us." That's exactly what happened to Rome's Italian allies in 91 BCE. From immigration debates to voting rights, the same patterns play out today. But Rome shows us where they lead. In an olive grove outside Asculum, Gaius Viticilius captures their fury. "My brother died fighting Rome's wars. My son serves in their legions now. Yet when we ask for citizenship, they call us greedy foreigners. Last month, they murdered the senator who supported us. If Rome won't grant us citizenship by law, we'll take it by force." His call to arms echoed across Italy. The civil war that followed killed 100,000 and destroyed the Republic. In this journey through Rome's immigration crisis, you'll discover the revolutionary citizenship strategy that built an empire, the elite resistance that sparked a devastating war, and the warning it holds for modern democracies facing their own inclusion battles. To understand the Italians' rage, we need to understand what made Rome different from the beginning. Most ancient cities were exclusive clubs. Athens limited citizenship to men with Athenian parents on both sides. Sparta restricted it to descendants of original Spartan families. Being a citizen wasn't just a legal status. It was a birthright jealously guarded from outsiders. Rome started much the same way. In early Rome, being Roman meant born in the city, belonging to a Roman tribe, participating in Roman religious rites. But as Rome began expanding, something remarkable happened. After defeating the nearby city of Alba Longa around 600 BCE, Rome did something unprecedented. It offered the conquered population citizenship. This pattern continued as Rome expanded through central Italy. Defeated enemies could become Romans, with voting rights, legal protections, and a stake in Rome's future. This wasn't charity. As the Roman historian Livy wrote, "Would you rather have those whom you have conquered remain enemies? The surest way to keep control is to give those who submit a share in your advantages." By turning potential enemies into stakeholders, Rome created exceptional loyalty. Former adversaries became invested in Rome's success. This inclusive strategy helped Rome defeat Carthage, conquer Greece, and build an empire. But Rome's citizenship revolution had limits. As Rome expanded beyond central Italy, it created a two-tier system that would eventually prove fatal. Meet Quintus, a cavalry officer from Samnium fighting in Rome's war against Macedonia in 168 BCE. Though his Italian town has been allied with Rome for over a century, he isn't a Roman citizen. Quintus serves in the same army as Romans, faces the same dangers, follows the same commanders. When the battle ends, the Roman general addresses the troops. "Romans, you have brought glory to the Republic." Despite his 3 battle honors, the general's eyes pass over Quintus and the other allied soldiers. If a Roman commander unjustly punishes Quintus, he has no right of appeal, a protection every Roman citizen enjoys. If he travels to Rome, he can't vote in assemblies. If he does business with Romans, he pays additional taxes. If he marries a Roman woman, his children's status remains uncertain. "We die Roman deaths," Quintus tells a fellow Italian soldier, as they watch Romans collect the best spoils, "but we don't live Roman lives." This wasn't a minor issue. By the late Republic, Italian allies provided almost half of Rome's military manpower. Their sons died in Rome's wars, their towns paid Rome's taxes, yet they remained second-class participants in an empire they helped build. For decades, this imbalance simmered without boiling over. But in the late 2nd century BCE, economic disaster struck Italian communities. Rome's conquests had brought hundreds of thousands of slaves to Italy. Wealthy Romans used these slaves to create vast estates that drove small farmers out of business. Rural communities throughout Italy saw their populations drain away to Rome or into destitution. While Roman citizens could receive grain handouts in Rome or land in colonies, Italian allies had no such safety net. Their communities collapsed while Romans profited from the very wars Italians helped fight. In 91 BCE, the Roman tribune Marcus Livius Drusus proposed granting citizenship to Italian allies. Conservative senators led by the consul Lucius Marcius Philippus vehemently opposed the measure. Rome is already changing too quickly, Philippus argued in the Senate. Extending citizenship to millions of Italians would destroy what makes Rome Roman. When Drusus was assassinated before the vote, Italian communities saw their last hope for peaceful incorporation extinguished. Italian towns across the peninsula formally seceded from Roman control. They formed their own confederation, created a rival government with its capital ironically named Italia, and raised an army of 100,000 men. The Social War, 91 to 88 BCE, called the War of the Allies by Romans, became one of the bloodiest conflicts on Italian soil. Roman generals like Marius and Sulla led armies against towns that had been their loyal supporters for centuries. At Asculum, the war began with the massacre of all Romans in the town. Rome retaliated with equal brutality. Cities were besieged, civilians slaughtered, prisoners executed. Across Italy, communities that had coexisted for generations now engaged in mutual destruction. As the war progressed and Roman losses mounted, the Senate faced a brutal truth. They were losing. In 90 BCE, the consul Lucius Julius Caesar, uncle of the famous Julius Caesar, pushed through the Lex Julia, offering citizenship to Italian communities that surrendered or remained loyal. The bitter irony was lost on no one. The very concession they had murdered a reformer for suggesting, they now implemented out of desperation. By 88 BCE, most Italians had gained citizenship, but at a catastrophic cost. Over 100,000 dead, communities destroyed, and perhaps most significantly, the violence of the social war soon turned inward, as generals like Sulla marched on Rome itself, beginning the civil wars that would destroy the Republic. All because Rome refused to grant peacefully what it eventually conceded through bloodshed. The social war fundamentally altered what it meant to be Roman. Within a generation, the citizen body expanded from roughly 400,000 to nearly 1.5 million people. Being Roman no longer meant coming from Rome. It meant participation in a legal system and cultural framework that transcended geographic origin. But gaining citizenship didn't mean gaining real power. The same Roman elite who had opposed Italian citizenship now worked to ensure these new citizens couldn't threaten their control. The Senate deliberately packed new Italian citizens into just 4 out of 35 voting tribes, ensuring that millions of new citizens had virtually no voting power. A handful of wealthy Roman families continued to control the Republic just as they had before. Most new citizens lived too far from Rome to vote in person anyway, making their political participation largely theoretical. The Senate's solution was telling. They gave Italians citizenship but carefully controlled its power. By packing millions of new citizens into just 4 voting tribes, they ensured Italian voices couldn't overwhelm traditional Roman voters. It was inclusion designed to prevent displacement. Roman citizenship was expanding geographically, while political participation was becoming increasingly hollow and increasingly controlled by the traditional elite. As Rome descended into civil war, citizenship itself became a weapon. Sulla stripped citizenship from entire communities that had supported his rivals. Caesar granted it to provincial supporters and skilled foreigners. What had once been a marker of community belonging now reflected political patronage. Meet Apollodorus, a physician from Athens. After treating Julius Caesar for seizures, he's granted Roman citizenship, something his ancestors would never have imagined possible. As the clerk records his new Roman name, Gaius Julius Apollodorus, he feels a mix of pride and uncertainty. His medical skills, not his birth or culture, have earned him this status. Will I ever truly be Roman? He wonders as he leaves with his citizenship tablet. Though legally a citizen, Apollodorus could never run for high office, join the Senate, or marry into the old Roman aristocracy. His citizenship granted legal protections, but not political equality. Though legally equal to any Roman, he knows many will always see him as a foreigner, and the Roman elite will ensure he remains on the outside of real power. By the time Augustus established the Principate in 27 BCE, Roman citizenship had transformed from participation in a self-governing republic to a legal status, conferring protection under imperial rule. The final transformation came in 212 CE, when Emperor Caracalla granted citizenship to nearly all free men throughout the empire. from Britain to Syria, from the Rhine to the Nile. Caracalla's universal citizenship succeeded partly because the empire was no longer a democracy. In a monarchy, citizenship expansion couldn't threaten existing power holders through voting. Imperial citizenship was safe because it was largely ceremonial. It couldn't displace anyone. In his shop in Lugdunum, modern Lyon, Caradicus, a Gallic merchant, reads the imperial announcement with his family. Though his grandfather fought against Roman conquest, Caradicus now conducts business in Latin and worships Roman gods alongside local deities. "We're all Romans now," he tells his wife, a mix of wonder and pragmatism in his voice. "The taxes will be higher, but our son will have more legal protections in the army." His teenage daughter asks, "Does this mean we're the same as the families in Rome itself?" Caradicus smiles wryly. Though legally equal, he knows the social hierarchies remain. "We're Romans on the tablets," he answers, "but some Romans will always be more Roman than others." Universal citizenship completed Rome's transformation from city-state to world empire, but also emptied citizenship of much of its original meaning. It no longer guaranteed political participation. Legal class distinctions created different rights for different citizens. What began as active membership in a community had become primarily a legal status under imperial authority. Rome's citizenship struggles reveal patterns that continue to shape who belongs and who doesn't in societies across time. First, expansion requires sacrifice. As Roman citizenship expanded, its substance changed. What began as direct participation in a community evolved into legal protection under central authority. Every expansion of belonging requires rethinking what belonging means. Second, delayed inclusion cost more than timely reform. Rome eventually granted citizenship to Italians, but only after a devastating war. The same rights that might have been peacefully extended in 91 BCE were granted under military necessity in 88 BCE, at the cost of 100,000 lives. America's experience with slavery echoes this pattern. The same rights that might have been extended gradually were only granted after a devastating civil war that cost more than 600,000 lives. Like Rome, America eventually conceded through bloodshed what it had refused to grant peacefully. Third, citizenship is more than legal status. Even after gaining formal citizenship, many Italians and provincials remain socially and economically marginalized. Legal equality on paper doesn't automatically create equal standing in reality. Even as citizenship expanded, the traditional Roman elite maintained their grip on real power through wealth, social networks, and institutional control. Fourth, identity transforms with expansion. As Roman expanded to include Italians, Gauls, Syrians, and Britons, the meaning of Roman identity necessarily evolved. Being Roman became less about where you were from and more about participation in shared institutions and cultural practices. Fifth, inclusion fears can be genuine. Roman elites weren't only protecting privilege, they feared demographic replacement in their own political system. Modern examples like Fiji, where political inclusion led to indigenous displacement through democratic processes, show that these concerns can have real consequences. The challenge isn't just overcoming elite resistance, but designing inclusion that doesn't create new forms of exclusion. Perhaps most importantly, citizenship isn't merely a legal technicality, but a fundamental negotiation about identity, belonging, and power. How societies answer who belongs shapes their destiny as profoundly as any military campaign or economic policy. The question, who deserves to be Roman, eventually transformed into, what does being Roman mean? A shift that reveals how profoundly citizenship shapes both those who receive it and those who grant it. Rome's citizenship story offers neither simple answers nor direct parallels to modern questions, but rather a recognition that the struggle over belonging has always involved both principle and pragmatism, identity and interest, inclusion and transformation. From ancient city-states to modern nations, how societies determine who belongs continues to shape our world in ways both visible and invisible. The citizenship battles that once raged across Italy echo in debates that continue today, reminding us that the question of belonging remains as consequential as ever. If you enjoyed our video, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Stay tuned for our next video.